Making 100K a year was like a dream to me. Like I could finally reach the finish line of making that 6-figure income. That was 2015. Now fast forward to 2025 as of today. In the big cities like New York City, San Francisco, or in the Bay Area, having 10K as a salary is like borderline broke. Well, it also really depends on your situation, right? Let's say if you're single, living with your parents, making 100K a year, that's great salary because you don't have to pay much for rent, I'm assuming, and you maybe pay a partial rent to your parents. If you're a single person living by yourself, 100K a year is not so much, right? Because you have to pay for your rent or your mortgage in the Bay Area or the big city in the US. 100K a year is not that much, to be honest. And if you're making 100K a year and you have, a spouse with 2 kids, right, and a dog, then 100K might not be enough, or you're just barely scraping by. The average rent for the Bay Area for, let's say, a 2-bedroom apartment or house is around $4,000. Can you believe $4,000? Holy mo! That's insane number. But I know in person that many people in the Silicon Valley, they rent out a 1-bedroom apartment by themselves. They're paying $2,200 to $3,000 a month for the 1-bedroom condo. All right, this is not news anymore. So let's just use that as an example, right? So let's say a single person who make 100K a year, and you are probably getting around, I don't know, $6,000 a month. Like, that's after tax, right? So $6,000 a month, and you're paying, let's say, $2,500 for a 1-bedroom apartment. You only have $3,500 left to play around. Let's do utilities, right? Utilities, let's say it's about, I don't know, $600. So now you have $2,900 to live on. Let's say you eat out, right? Or just buy groceries, food-wise. Let's say you spend around $800 a month, okay? Because food is important. You don't want to eat junk food all the time because you don't want to compromise your health, right? So let's say $800 a month. Now you're only left with $2,100. I mean, that's not too bad, right? But do you want to do some saving? Do you want to save some money to your retirement accounts and whatnot? Okay, let's do the car payment too, right? So an average in California, people pay between $500 to $700 right now. Let's do a midpoint, $600. Right, minus that, now you have around $1,500 left in your account. What you gonna do with that? Let's say you're super frugal and you only spend like $300 for entertainment and subscriptions and whatnot, right? Let's say you spend $300, and let's say you spend, I don't know, $100 for a gym membership. Now you end up with just $600 left in your saving. If you find this video to be entertaining or informative, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Okay, so that's how much you can save for making $100,000 in the Bay Area. Do you think that's scraping by? Let me know in the comments. So I think in a single person scenario, right, living by yourself, it's not too bad. You can still save some money with the 100K salary. But do you think that's scraping by? What if your household income is 100K and you have like 2 children need to be fed? What do you think? Back in the days, I was making like $20 an hour. which comes down to like what, $42,000 a year. But I was living with my parents. I feel okay. I mean, I still have shelter and all that, but my parents were living under a low income housing. So as soon as I found a job, I had to move out. Otherwise, they won't qualify as a low income, right? And that's the worst case scenario in America. You're not poor enough to qualify for some low income housing or assistance, but you're not rich enough to rent a place, right? Let's say 42,000 a year, 42,000 a year, and then my monthly income is around like, I don't know, 3,000, right? Even back then, they require like 3 times the rent to rent a place. With $3,000, I cannot rent anywhere. So I was stuck. I was still living with my parents, but we had to move out. But then like we couldn't find any place that my income would qualify to rent a place. So lower middle class in America is terrible. At the time I hit 100,000 a year for salary, I was so happy for like a week. Then I found out the reality is that in the city like this, it's not enough, because I find out that when I'm making 100K, I have to move out with family of 4. I have 2 kids, a wife, right? Then the 100K is not gonna scrape by. I showed you a scenario already with the single person living by themselves. But for a family of 4, 100K is not enough to live comfortably, right? Not to mention you can't have any savings at all. You make 6 figures, you got nothing to show for. That's the reality. So that was what I was gonna share. If you find this video to be entertaining or informative, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Alright, I'll see you guys next time.